things that were just released in the last few weeks. Started. The release was April 1st, and updates to existing customers started recently. So we're going to run through some of these things. This is just a high level, summary. There's quite a bit of depth to some of these, and John and I are working on maybe a little schedule over the next couple of months to really dig into a few of them, because there's quite a bit there that we certainly want to make people aware of, especially, for example, the new 1099 processes. We don't want to get to the end of the year and have any surprises for anyone. There's just quite a bit of improvements there and quite a bit more depth. And we certainly want to give you time to kind of deal with it and figure out how to adapt it into your organization. So we're going to start with, recently, several of us went to Microsoft Directions, which is the partner conference for a conference put on by partners, but sponsored significantly by Microsoft. And they geared around in April around the new release, and of course everything this year was about Copilot. I'm sure many of you have heard of Copilot or heard the word Copilot. If you haven't, that's Microsoft's AI tool. It is being built into, or has been built into, Microsoft 365, so into Word and Excel and PowerPoint, so that you can have AI kind of help you with presentations. And it's also been introduced into Business Central. It was introduced about a year ago with some marketing text, on the item card. And then in the fall, it was a little bit of AI on the bank recs. And now we're getting a little deeper, though these features we're going to go through this morning are in preview mode, meaning they're slow. There's no other way to say it. It's a little pokey. And, Microsoft's just kind of, putting some feelers out there to see how people use this and get some feedback, through telemetry to figure out how they can optimize it and make it better. So I'm going to jump over into BC and we'll get a look at what some of these things are. But, analyze a list, that feature that we're all been used to, or hopefully have all gotten used to, where we can, bring up a customer ledger entry in a list view and turn on that analyze mode. Well, we can, and then you can make like pivot tables and all that. Well, now we can do that through AI, just through words. So we're going to show that. We can add sales lines to a sales order, just using words. We can chat with Copilot MBC and ask it for help, whether it's field help or with data. And then I just want to talk about how one ISV has adopted the new AI features and this new some of these new features with Copilot, and it's InsightWorks. And some of you may use their products, like their sites. For everybody still have me? I kind of got John. You still have me?
Yeah. There's a little blip, but we never really lost you.
Okay. All right. So InsightWorks, they have the warehouse insights or the shop floor insights, where you're collecting shop floor time as you're doing operations. Some shipping tools, things like that. And one of their apps is a configurator, right? So they, you sell bikes, right? So you can go in, customer call and say, hey, I want a mountain bike, or do I want a road bike? Do I want it red, or do I want it black? Do I want it? What kind of frame do I want? What size of frame, materials, all those things. It's kind of like a wizard feel. And you can do that. Click, 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 and walk through it, and it'll build a bill of materials for you to make that bike. But with the design to configure mode, they're just typing the text in a Copilot AI field, and the system reads it, parses it, and goes in and builds the configuration for them. Is it perfect? Not yet, but it certainly is. Was interesting to see how they've adopted this and grasp the kind of the power of it, and to make it easier for their end users. So let's kind of flip over into BC and see what some of this means. So first, let's look at the analyze view, and let me forgot to open one. There we go, one document. Okay. So if we go to, say, a customer ledger entry page, we've all looked at the customer ledger entry page in the past. There's all my entries. And if you recall, in the past, there was the word analyze up at the top, and you'd click on that and it would open up this in a different view. That word analyze has been replaced by this little icon. So if you're looking for the analyze button, it's that now. Kind of looks like a pivot table here, like an Excel pivot, sort of. If I click on that, then it brings up that analysis view that we're all used to. And now I can click on the Copilot icon. So anywhere you see this little icon, that's your Copilot. And the important thing, and I know we've done some of these, and I know, in the past, and don't know that everybody's been on them, over time, but the important thing about Copilot is it's the Copilot. You're still the pilot. It's not going to do anything in the system without you approving it. And it's also secure. Your data is containerized in Azure so that it's not bouncing around all over the place. This is your data in your storage being analyzed by Copilot. So, and maintained in that little container. So let's see how this works. And I'm going to copy and paste from Notepad because you don't need to see me type. So I've just created some text. Create a list of entries grouped by document type and customer number. Include columns for document type, customer number, document number, customer group, amount misspelled, and remaining amount with remaining misspelled. And I'll hit generate. That's going to think for a minute. Like I said, this stuff's in preview mode, so it's a little pokey sometimes. And sometimes you look at it and go, it's probably just faster to, just pick the columns I wanted. But in relatively short order, I now have a list of entries grouped by document and customer type or customer group. So there's my document type and customer by and include columns for document number, customer group, amount, and remaining amount. So even though I misspelled amount and remaining, it still found the columns and brought them forward for me to take a look at and review this. And this is where the Copilot part comes in. Copilot has suggested this is what you want. I can hit keep it, or I can discard and start over, but it will not keep it unless I hit keep it. If I wanted to, I can also continue that analysis. So if I wanted to add customer name, let's just leave it in spell and see how that works. Kind of go off script here for a second. And so now if we expand that, let's see if it got what I was looking for. Yep, and there's the customer name. Now it's put in the wrong place, and I could, then I can move it. And now if I like that, I want to put it right there. And I can keep it. So that's, how Microsoft's starting to add AI in to areas in the system where, it can be useful, right? So you don't need to go through and create this, go from all this pick list. And it's only going to continue to get this type of feature is only going to continue to get more robust, right? Because you could imagine if we went from marketing text a year ago, where on the item card you can create marketing text based on some of your item attributes, to some bank recs, to now natural language queries of the database. Give me a list of entries grouped by document type and customer number. I'm not a programmer, didn't write code for that. That's natural language. So now, as this continues to evolve, we believe we're going to see things like where you're going to be able to go to multiple tables. Where you're show me all my customer ledger entries for a job based on a state, and start creating these lists, using natural language, to fetch these lists and be able to save them in BC like this. So that's just a quick brief of the this analyze view using Copilot. You have all the same features that you have. It's just an analysis feature that's been there for a while now. So all this stuff still exists. If you wanted to put that in Excel, you could export it to Excel or CSV. Save it. Maybe give it a better name. Copy the link and share it with people. So, but you've created, that's been all created using just natural language, not with, dragging and dropping or querying. And, if you got someone that's new to to VC, but they're not new to a business process. They can very easily describe something and get results. So quick, view of the of how to analyze a list. You will see a Copilot icon up here in the top right-hand corner. So if I click on that, that's going to open up the Copilot window, and I can start asking questions of Copilot about Business Central. So, and a lot of these things will show you right now. They're with kind of some set prompts. It's not infinite what you can ask for and expect good results. So right now we've got some prompts that we can kind of use. Say find, look up purchase invoice number or show last sales invoices for customer kind of thing. So Microsoft's kind of put some reins on it, so we have some options to get good results. So if I did something like show, let's do, just copy and paste this from here. Find the last 2 invoices for a Datum Corporation, and kind of the place where I can see where this could be handy is if you're a controller, CFO, operations manager, something like that. Somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I'm going to a customer meeting and I need the last couple of invoices for this company." You might be in the middle of something else, completely different page. Not now you have to stop your day and go do something and go help them. Bring up Copilot, punch them what they need. You can continue working, doing what you're doing in BC, maybe doing a journal entry, or you're running, analyzing an account schedule or a financial report. And while that's thinking, and when you're doing your work, it comes back with, "Hey, there's your invoices." Click on the link and takes you straight to the invoice. You can, email that to them, send it via Teams, PDF it, whatever you need to do, but you haven't had to stop your day. You can let Copilot do its thing, find the data you're looking for, and when it comes back with it, then you just send it off, and now you just continue on your merry way. You're not navigating back to a home page, going here, going there, opening another tab, all those things that slow you down. You can very quickly get to the information without having to really go look for it. Let Copilot find it for you. This can be conversational, so it'll kind of remember. So if I got, say, I asked for 2, but if I got 10, I said, "Well, just show me the last 2," but just show the last 2. So it'll kind of keep remembering the conversation until you kind of refresh, kind of close the thing and reopen it. So you can have a conversation with Copilot to drill down even deeper into what you're looking for. And then you can do things like, explain. So we'll do explain. We'll do something very simple. Explain due date on sales invoice. And now it's going out to Microsoft Help to find that information and come back. Yeah, it's in preview mode, so sometimes it gets a little. I've found it gets a little lost sometimes if you're not specific enough. It can come back with some interesting results where you're like, "That's not even the page that I was on." But again, it's very early on in this type of process, and so Microsoft, they want people to give it a try and just see how, and so they can then get data and get information, figure out how it works, and figure out how people are using it so they can make it better. So you're going to continue to hear Copilot. There's no doubt. And it's how can we adopt it safely and securely in our organizations to make sure that you're getting information that you need quickly without it being too intrusive. So just something to kind of play around with. When you're kind of if you're doing some things, if you're trying to look something up in BC, maybe try using Copilot and saying, "Hey, give me the last AP invoice for whoever, or your vendor," and see what it comes back with. So that's just kind of a brief, quick one on Copilot. Okay, next, page scripting. Again, something that's new and in preview mode, but certainly something that made a buzz at the conference in early April. So page scripting is a way to record activities on a page. like a process, and then you can play that process back. So if you were, say, ISVs really liked this a lot, those add-on vendors. So if you had a solution for credit card processing or something like that, they could have a set of page scripts so that they can say, okay, every time I do a release, I'm going to run these 10 scripts or these 20 scripts or these 30 scripts, or whatever it is, and make sure that everything works exactly as I expect. And if it doesn't, then I know I've got a problem. So how does this work? If we go to, say, a customer, there's this customer list. And if I go to here and I can see page scripting, and again, it's in preview. So this is, early on in the process, but, again, Microsoft would like some people to they want to see how people may use it. So I can start new and I can start a recording. And let's say I think it's recording. So if I hit new, I'm going to create a customer. And you can see as I click and do things, it's adding what's happening in the background to the page. So we'll call this Joe Smith, and I'm just going to stop here. I don't need to go through everything. And then we stop. And now we have a recording that I can save and then replay. So, for the add-on vendors, those ISVs, that's great for them because, okay, I need to add a new customer and I need to fill in my fields on the customer page that my extension adds, and now I can test that, repetitively. But, from a training perspective, certainly, I think as this evolves, I'm not going to say now, but as it evolves, this could certainly be a training tool where you could sit down as as the sales manager and say, here's how we're going to manage opportunities in our organization. And we're going to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And you can record that. You can go through maybe there's 10 scenarios. Here's how we do an opportunity for a big customer, or a small customer, or a new customer, or an existing customer, whatever it is. And you can then turn around and get a new hire and go, okay, let's go through the scripts. And they can have BC open and have another tab open with the script and run the script and step through it and then do the same thing on their own. So what does that look like? So if I open, let's open a recording, and we'll go to my desktop real quick here. Webinar recording. And this one I created and did the entire customer card. So you can see there's just more, information there. And if I now play it, it's now walking through and doing the work, filling in all the information that I have filled out in the script and showing somebody how, if you didn't know how to add a customer, they could go through this and watch it and go, okay, that's all the stuff I need to do to add a customer. Now, granted, it's a little fast, right? But you can step back through it, but at the end, page select was closed and we're done. And now we have a new customer, Mark's Enterprise Solutions. So again, new feature, it's in preview mode, but kind of interesting, both from an ISV perspective, but I think from an end user perspective, seeing this evolve into documentation could be very interesting. So just a quick, note there on page scripting. It was one of those things at the conference that caused a lot of buzz when it was announced. A lot of partners, and we're excited about it. All right, let's get into more meat and potatoes now. And enough with the new preview features and then the things that kind of affect our day-to-day jobs. Speaking of jobs, Microsoft has rebranded Jobs Projects. It's been on the list for a long time, and they finally did it. Fortunately, they left all the jobs navigation out there. So if I'm used to going and looking for jobs, I can type in jobs, but it's going to pull up projects. If I pull up job journal, well, we're gonna go to project journals. or project GL journals or so on. So Microsoft's giving us some help there so that you just don't type in job journal and you get nothing. Because that wouldn't be useful. So the entire jobs module has been rebranded as projects. So if we see type in projects, these are all the things that you would have seen in the past if you're using the projects module. They just would have said jobs, job setup, job whip, job whip methods, job GL journals, and so on. Go ahead and open up a project. Let's grab this one. So we've got some new features here. That was a bad one to choose. Let's go back one or two. Yeah, there we go. Okay. One, we can archive projects. So certainly a nice feature. So you go to actions, functions, archive project, and just like on a purchase order or a sales order or purchase quotes, whatever those types of documents, we'll create an archived version of the project. And you can see here we've got a number of archive versions. So if you're crafting this thing and expanding it, and then you go, oh, I didn't want to add all those new tasks because customer changed their mind, let's fall back to the previous version. Then you can bring up that previous version, and if you wanted to restore it and bring back the version you archived. We can now do assembly orders on a project, which is super exciting. Over the years, the projects module has been really we'll call it, for the most part, an accounting module. There wasn't a lot of functionality around operations. You couldn't ship from a job. You couldn't, do those like warehouse picks to a job and things like that. Microsoft has slowly layered that functionality in over the last couple of years, and now we're starting to see assemblies, which is going the right direction for production. Because obviously, there are many organizations out there that use projects and they spin up production orders, so they need to spin up production orders in those projects. And the way to do that today is through some pretty beefy ISVs. But now Microsoft has introduced assembly orders to a project, so into that light manufacturing, and we're hoping that they continue moving that right direction, and continue with that process. So if we drill into a job planning line, or project planning line, excuse me, I got to get my terminology right. I can hop into here, and there's our. Let me add another line here real quick. So I've got an assembly item here. Say we need one of those. All right, so this is a conference room bundle. It's a table and some chairs. So I can, from here, create the oh Lord, Mark, where'd it go? Assemble the order. I just did it this morning and it has escaped me. The system will generate an assembly order for you, and which you can then action functions. It was right here. Did I just miss it? No. Oh, put the number in there, dummy. It's been a long morning. All right, so we put how many we want to assemble. That has generated the assembly order. So there's our assembly order lines. We need 6 chairs and a conference room table and an hour for the installation. And from there, I can show documents. So this is similar functionality that's on a sales order today. If you're doing assembly orders from a sales order. But one of the things that you can't do from here is post the assembly order. You can preview posting, as you're doing operations, you want to see what's happening. But all the posting of an assembly order associated with the job has to happen from the job planning lines. So we would go over here, transfer it to a journal, to our project journal, and then go to that project journal and post it when we're ready. And that would close out the assembly order, relieve inventory, and book those costs to the job. So that's how we can manage the assembly process, generate those assembly orders from assembly bombs from projects. And like I mentioned earlier, we're hoping that Microsoft continues down the path into production. So, there are suggestions out there, and it's just when do they choose to adopt them. We can now publish Power BI. The Power BI kind of box has been added to the fact box list, so that you can go in and pick a report, and you can have your Power BI report sitting in your facts box, so you can easily get to it and expand it and show whatever, if you have some sort of Power BI dashboard or something like that built for your jobs, you can pop this out. Very nice new feature. We're now able to invoice multiple customers on a project. So when in the past that just wasn't possible, right? We had a bill to customer, and that was it. And now we have the ability at the task level to specify different customers. So if this last task were for a different customer, or if a different customer was responsible for that bill or that line of the or that phase of the project or whatever, you could change that and say, oh, this is the bill to customer, but here's the customer that we're building this for, but we're sending this invoice for this line to a different customer. So super nice feature. That is controlled right here through the task billing method. It can either be one customer or multiple customers. That can be set in project setup so that the default's in, though if you have it, say, I think the majority of people will have it set to one customer, because that's going to be the majority of the cases, except for those exceptions where you have multiple customers. When you do change to multiple customers on a project, you cannot change back, and you get a warning that there's an informational message. It tells you can't undo this. Are you sure you want to do it? But it is a kind of a permanent change once you do that. We can also do the opposite now too. Along with invoicing multiple customers on a project, we can invoice a customer for multiple projects on the same invoice. And I think we probably could have done that. We could do that before, but it was a multi-step process. You create sales invoice from a job, from a project, and get the lines, and then go to the next job and say create sales invoice, and then append it to the existing invoice. And it was just this iterative process that was not efficient. For this function, a new invoice multiple customer for multiple projects, we would let me create a new invoice instead of grabbing one. So put in our customer, and from the line there's a function, and those of you that are working more on the supply chain distribution side, you may be used to doing get shipment lines when it's time to invoice that customer for shipments that went out, or conversely on the AP side, get receipt lines for those things that you've received that you now received the AP invoice for to get that triple match. Now we have get project planning lines, and that will go out and look at all billable lines across multiple projects for that customer that are ready to bill. They have a quantity, and in theory you can bill them based on that status. And I think it also checks it's doing filters on the customer, the currency, also because you could have different currencies that could cause a problem. So we're doing some filtering on currencies, and then when we hit OK, we bring in those lines, and now you can invoice that customer. And you can see here we're keeping our reference to the project and project task and those different project numbers and different task numbers. So much more efficient way to do that invoicing, to get those invoices over to customers, with multiple projects to one customer. Okay, so that's not all we have. Well, not all. That's a big change for projects, right? Just the rebranding of the entire module, and then of course just adding in more functionality, both on the invoicing side, for finance and also on the manufacturing side for those light manufacturers and or folks that are doing assemblies. So let's flip on to the next. All right, Excel, or not Excel, app finance. So we're going to run through some of these. There's quite a bit here. We won't be able to show all of them, but I'll just kind of mention them as we go. Let's flip back here. So we have new Excel layouts. I'm sure many of you have seen how we can create Excel layouts for existing reports and upload this into BC. And then when you run your reports, you get the Excel layout as opposed to, some layout that somebody developed a long time ago for Microsoft. So there's during this release kind of phase over the next 6 months, there will be roughly 35 new Excel layouts pushed out to the application. There's a new sustainability functionality. While not an issue statutorily in the US yet, it is in Europe. So there's a whole sustainability kind of journal and sustainability reporting to report on CO2 and methane and I think nitrous oxide emissions. We can assign a salesperson to the customer ship to address. We've got a big new feature around 1099 submissions. This one we'll just kind of briefly touch on. There's a lot to it. There's a new collections role center with reminder automation, and then better dimension management on currency reevaluation transactions. So you can really kind of hone in those dimensions, and then better visibility to exchange rates and historical exchange rate use on consolidations. These two we won't touch on today. I just wanted to mention them. There's quite a bit of meat behind those two. So those are some other ones that we'll want to dive into a little deeper session where we can really, just get some of the finance folks that deal with multi-company, multi-currency issues. So let's kind of hop in here and take a look at a few of these things. So start off with, we have our Excel reports here. You will probably have that already. And you might see some of these basic ones, and then you see a bunch of them in preview. These are all the new ones. So if I I'll just grab my trial balance. And, unlike a normal report, let's back up one. If we were to, say, look at a balance sheet here, we'd have preview or preview and close, right? Or you could send it to a PDF. For these Excel reports, if I click on this trial balance again, it's only download, right? I can put in my date filters, whatever those are. If I want to just look at a certain account or a certain account type, I can do that. Whatever my filters need to be, and hit download. That's going to generate my TB. Go ahead and open that up on one of these screens. On one of these screens, where'd it go? Oh, Microsoft, there it is. Okay, enable content, let it fetch the data. And now I have my trial balance in both my local currency and if I had an alternate reporting currency, right? So if the company was in USD, but I had to report to a European parent company in euros, I could set up that alternate reporting currency. But there's my trial balance by account with debits and credits and balance and so on. I have filters for my departments, filter for customer groups. I can filter by account category or subcategory. And, that's just one of that's the direction Microsoft's going with all these reports, right? Or I won't say all of them, but a lot of the reports is to get them in Excel because many times people just want the report in Excel anyway to do something with it. So we'll continue to see this list get longer and longer as and hopefully a little better organized. Probably, some operational reports that may not show up on a more of an accounting business or accounting role center will start showing up. The sustainability function, I'm just going to kind of briefly touch on this just to show what's available. There might be some folks on here that have to deal with reporting to parent companies for sustainability or have European subsidiaries that that have to deal with this because of where they're incorporated. So the sustainability ledger entry. There's also there's a setup, certainly how you set up all your different accounts and things like that. And then there's a chart of sustainability accounts. And this gets a little wordy. I'll just pull that up. And so this is where you're using a sustainability journal to post transactions, and those transactions are doing calculations to come up with your CO2 net change CO2 for the month and balance at date kind of thing. Same with methane and nitrous oxide. And if we scroll down a bit, there's just different. These are again all setups. It's going to be statutorial, so I'm not going to pretend to say it's going to be the same for every country. But in this demo data, it's different types of hotels, different size of cars, and then the emissions for those. So it is what it is. It's there. So if you get wind that you have a European subsidiary that needs to do this, we can support it. Onto something a little more little simpler. If we can now assign customers to, salespeople to ship to addresses. So, on the card, I have is it Helena Ray as the salesperson. But for a specific ship to address, oh, it reverted back on me overnight. All right, added that to the page. Something definitely wrong there. Don't know why that didn't save. Okay, let's put this out real quick. Salesperson code. Come on. There we go. And as you can see, the salesperson code for this specific ship to address is JO, Jim Olive. So if I create the sales invoice or sales order for this customer, when I grab the customer, a Datum Corporation, and add to the sales order, it'll put Helena Ray on as the salesperson. Then as I pick a different ship to address, it's going to change it to what's on the ship to address if there is one. So if it's blank, it's not going to change it. But because that's a different salesperson on that ship to address, we're moving that different salesperson in there. And that's, that can help with, commission calculations and commission reporting. Because maybe, there's different, different salesperson gets credit for it if it's being shipped to their territory kind of thing. So that's why that's been added. The 1099 submission. So we're going to get into a little more depth on this in a different session because there's quite a bit to it. And like I said, we don't want to leave you kind of, we don't want to wait till the end of the year on this because it's going to get a little hectic. I think just because there's been the changes are good, but there's quite a few. So we look at a vendor. Go to the next one. Before there was just a 1099. Reporting period and form number and form boxes and email for IRS. So we're setting up more on the vendor to then provide more data kind of downstream, at the end of the day. If we go take a look at this form documents, and this feature is only partially released so far, so I can't show all of it. But we're going to create our form documents for the period for the year. In this case, I have just one vendor in this one. But if I drill into this one document, we now have on the form itself in BC, what's our calculated 1099 amount that we can drill into and see, what generated that. And if it's included in the 1099, is it over, are there thresholds for different things? And if so, we're going to toggle this on or off to make sure, if something's under the threshold, it's not going to be included. We've got our different copies that we can send. And then there's a whole a life cycle and status around this. so that you can submit this thing electronically to the IRS, because that's the point of all this, is being able to send in your 1099s, your 1096s electronically to the IRS and submit them electronically to your vendors via email. So this process, I think once the next release comes out and they get the other pieces in, because there's a couple more pieces in for this that need to come in, then we're definitely going to want to have a more in-depth session, because there's quite, like I said, there's quite a bit around this. And there's just too much to cover with everything else we're talking about today. But there are big improvements already, just in this April release, and I would say probably by June or so, they'll get the next, we're almost June, maybe July, get kind of the rest of it out there, and then we can kind of dig into how we can help with help you, kind of convert to the new version or the new mechanisms by the end of the year. There's a new collections role center. It's called the Accounts Receivable Administrator. And again, this is one we're going to dig into a little more, because there's quite a bit of depth under this, not so much in the role center. Role center is a role center. It's not so interesting other than it optimizes things for you. But what one feature that's been added that's very nice is this, automation of the creation of reminders. So if you're doing reminders, if you'd like to do reminders, then we can do some automations to create those reminders, run a process, then automatically create your reminders to your customers. And then you can turn around and run another automation to send those, issue them to the customer, like as in the form of a statement, get them out the door, as opposed to kind of the one-off processes you have to do today. So again, these automations are pretty interesting in terms of you can configure them. Come on, keep up. There we go. So we have a create reminder automation, what reminder terms, so that, we're setting a filter for what terms on the customer card we're pulling into this. And then we can have a variety of tasks down here to do different things. So we just kind of keep adding tasks. Do we want to create the reminder? Maybe you want to create and then issue it and then send all in one step. Maybe you don't want to have separate steps. We can do that. So there's different ways that we can configure this, and certainly we want to kind of walk through this with folks in a little more deliberate manner so they can understand how it works. But just giving you a little tickler that this is available now, to add more automation to the collection process. Okay. Let's see, 15 minutes. Get through this one real quick. Service management. If you're using service management, couple of just a couple features there. One, the document isn't so exciting per se, but it is good. The document attachments that we see on everything else, whether it's a sales order or a purchase invoice, that attachment fact box is now added to all the service documents and service items and things like that. So in the past, those weren't there. We can block items from service transactions. So if you pull up an item, you can block it from sales, and now you can block it from service. So again, if you're using service management, that could be a handy feature. And then I think the other big feature that caused a lot of buzz when it was announced at the conference was the native integration of Business Central to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Field Service. So if you're an organization that has a field service operation, and in the past, we had to go to an external solution, third-party provider. We typically want to expand it, and we've worked with Expanded a lot. We enjoy them. We like their product. Microsoft has also developed a field service platform on the CRM platform, on the Microsoft CRM platform. And they have now built native integration from Business Central into that field service platform. The licensing is pretty advantageous from Microsoft's pricing at $20 a user per month, which is better than some of the third party prices. So so we're going to have to figure out what all that means and what to do with that. But it's certainly something that Microsoft is going to continue doing and figuring out how to layer BC functionality into more of their ecosystem. And this is kind of their first big push into that. The Dynamics 365 field service platform is very strong and robust. If you have a field service operation or are interested in it, we can certainly talk to you about it. Though we have a couple of partner firms that we would work with for that implementation because they have that true expertise there. And they also call on us to do the business center work. So we have a nice little kind of cousin relationship with them. The country and region update, just like to throw this out there just to show what else is coming, just to show that I can hopefully spell all the country names correctly. So just showing, I think the big takeaway on this, granted there's a bunch of small countries in here for sure, but now BC is available in over 170 countries worldwide. I don't think there's any other, kind of mid-market solution that can say that with all those localizations for 170 plus countries. I mean, we're running out of countries. I think there's only like 194 to begin with, maybe 198. So we're kind of getting to the end of the road on this one. Though, if you do want to open your, your subsidiary in Turks and Caicos, you can. We got an app for that. Okay, and then finally, a couple of points on next steps. One, though most of the rollouts have started, so if you don't have the new version, make sure you go into your admin center. You can get there. If you have the rights, you click on your settings gear, and there's your admin center. So you can open up the admin center and then do your update settings and get your update window set so that you will get the new version. And then importantly, we got to check feature management. Feature management is where you get some of those new features that are big, right? And so Microsoft doesn't enable them from the very beginning. However, they will eventually. And there is one in here that's a pretty big deal. And it's going to be enabled automatically with version 25, which is the fall version. So wave 2 2024, so in October. And it's this convert user group permissions. What does that mean? So today depends on how you have your permissions set up. Some people just add users to the system and assign permissions to them. There's also a way to set up user groups. So maybe you have your sales team, and that sales team has whatever permissions within BC, and then you assign people to that user group in Business Central. That user group feature is going away. If you're using it, that user group feature is going away in the fall, and it will be replaced with Entra Active Directory security groups. So in Entra, your network administrator, or your MSP, whoever's managing your network for you, is going to go in and create a group in Entra called sales. That same group we talked about a second ago. Then we're going to go into, they need to go into BC and create that same Entra security group in BC called sales and link them together. And then you assign those permissions that were assigned to the old user group to to that new Entra security group in BC. Then when you assigning users to the group is going to happen through Active Directory, not through BC. You're going to assign a user you're going to say, hey, here's my 10 salespeople, and we're going to assign them to that Active Directory group at the network level, and be mapped to a security group in BC that says those 10 people get these rights in the application. So that's a big one that we need to make sure that we're addressing with everyone, because it's gonna affect security, right? And we want to make sure you don't have any gotchas in there. And it's a big one for Microsoft, because it's moving the application security into Active Directory, like so many of their other applications. It's kind of making BC more compliant, common, standard, there's the right word, more standard within the Microsoft ecosystem. And so with that, you can then use those permissions for other things. So maybe you have Power BI reports that only the sales team can see. Well, now you can assign that security group in Active Directory to that Power BI report and make sure only the salespeople see that report. or maybe you're using some Power Automate, for workflows, or just, folders in Active Directory, right? And now that sales team can see these folders. So there's all kinds of, folders in SharePoint, excuse me. So there's all kinds of reasons for Microsoft to do this, to make BC standard within the ecosystem. But we're going to have to, we may have to help you with the lift to get there. So something to keep in mind for later this year, and we'll certainly keep some reminders coming out on that one.
Hey, Mark, we did get a question earlier about reminders. Do those work for vendors and AP invoices as well?
I will check. I've only really considered those under the context of customers.
Okay.
It's more statements, things like that. But I will check on that, John, and get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I don't see the hands fly up because I don't have Teams open. So sorry if I.
Yeah, no problem. That's the reason I was monitoring that. Yeah.
Appreciate that. So next steps, last but not least, definitely if you want, you can certainly, all this release documentation is out on learn.microsoft.com. Absolutely. Go look it up, go check it. You can read through all the features. This is just some highlights. There's more out there, but these are kind of the bigger ones. You can either, well, click on that. Well, that's not the link. So that's the shortcut link. If you zap that QR code, it'll take you to it. And then if you need any assistance with the new features, certainly reach out to John or our support desk, and we can get some folks assigned. Take care of it.